Assassin's Creed Shadow embargo has lifted, and we are starting to see the shills for what they are. And nobody's really surprised. What's going on, guys? Welcome to another episode of Smash JT. I was really looking forward to today just to see if any of these journalistic outlets had learned any lessons along the way, from Dustborn to Concord to the most prominent one of Dragon Age the Veilguard. And all along the way, if they might take a step back and say, maybe we should probably evaluate these from the perspective of, is the game good, as opposed to, we want to push the message with these games because they echo how we feel intrinsically, internally, and because of that, it doesn't really matter if the game's good or not. It matters about the message. And what we're seeing right now with Assassin's Creed Shadows coming from Ubisoft is more of the same. Hit that subscribe, give me a like, and check out smashjt.com for the full article breaking down the Assassin's Creed Shadows embargo release and these review scores that are outright hysterical in the context of, you've got to be kidding me. You're giving this game a perfect score, and then within the review, you're saying the game isn't perfect, but hey, it's perfect for me. Well, here we are. The embargo has officially lifted and the reviews for Assassin's Creed Shadow are in. But let's be real. Did anybody actually expect mainstream media outlets to be giving this other than a glowing review with praise? Ubisoft's latest entry in the long-running franchise is already being showered with near perfect scores from the usual suspects. And I gotta ask the one obvious elephant in the room question here. Are we serious right now? And on SmashJT.com, here's a quick look at some of the big name outlets and what they're saying. We got Gaming Trend giving it a perfect score of 10, Noisy Pixel 9.5, CGM, PSX Brazil, Tech Radar, GameSpew, and 6 Assets giving it a 9. We got IGN, GameSpot, Push Square giving it an 8, and then Press Start is a 7.5, and the other ones like VGC, The Gamer, Eurogamer, Games Radar, 4 out of 5, and PSLS with a 7. Overall, as of right now, the Metacritic score is an 82. And 82 is something that might be familiar to people that would look up Dragon Age the Veilguard and see that that is actually the same exact score that that game has on Metacritic right now. But then you look at how the sales of that game went, how the concurrent players went on Steam database, and just the overall results from it with EA's conference call and talking about how BioWare is in a major struggle session right now, letting go a lot of employees and basically overhauling and reevaluating everything they do because that game completely flopped, has the same score right now as Assassin's Creed Shadows. So take that for what it's worth. Let's take a look at some of these glowing reviews and how they ignore major problems. We got Video Games 24/7 giving it a perfect score on Metacritic, stating, there are problems with Assassin's Creed Shadows for sure, but it's so fun to play, it's telling a gripping story, and there's so much sense of progress and reward for every little thing you do that it actually feels like an open world game. And moving on to Games Hub, they said, at the end of the day, it's a game about killing, but here, death and beauty are linked, and the act of killing is given the gravity that must be clearly understood. It's not killing for the sake of killing. Games Hub giving it a 90 out of 100. And this is the same outlet that is saying it's not killing for the sake of killing, and a game where they inserted Yasuke, by all accounts, to insert a black guy into a game. And I gotta be honest, looking at Ubisoft's official YouTube channel and their posts on launch and talking about this game coming out, they have removed nearly all references of Yasuke. It's only Nawe that they're playing with for the vast majority of the game. And you look at the situation for what it is, the review on IGN, and what everyone else is talking about, it's almost like the prominent character of Yasuke has been given the back seat in this game to push forward Nawe as a way to try to avoid any kind of DEI conflicts and issues so that they can minimize the backlash. And that in itself brings up a whole bunch of new issues. But if you remove all the DEI concerns that people have and pretend that none of that exists, then you might be able to find a fun game here. Then we got NME saying Assassin's Creed Shadows is the series refresh badly needed after Valhalla, showcasing a huge technical and visual upgrade alongside a new gameplay blueprint. A fantastic story and well-developed characters ground the game in a believable era. NME giving it a perfect 100 out of 100 score. So they are saying, if I understand this correctly, that Assassin's Creed Shadows being a 10 out of 10, the perfect score game, should be up there with the highest of echelon games that have ever been created. This should be in the pantheons of Game of the Years, the greatest games ever, perfect scores. And maybe it is. Again, I have not played it yet, and I will be playing it on release day. I just find it very challenging to believe this when someone plays an Assassin's Creed game and says it is the perfect game, especially with all the drama surrounding the game. Sure, could it be fun? Could it be good? I would hope so. It's a massive property from Ubisoft that's proven before that they could make great games out of the Assassin's Creed brand. I'm not saying the game's going to be terrible, but we're saying it's perfect now? Guardian said, few other games have done such a good job with this setting, as you run through the lush bamboo forest before scaling ancient castle walls and sneaking inside to steal treasures. These moments of brilliance more than compensate for its weaker points. The Guardian, 100 out of 100, perfect score, 10 out of 10. The same review that says the good parts make up for the weak parts of the story and gameplay. There are weak parts in the game, yet you're giving it a perfect score. Again, these are the things where I'm like, I can't believe you. When you say things like this, it completely shoots holes in all of your stories. When you're trying to be honest with integrity and you push forward some slop review like this, people will read right through it. You're trying to be transparent, and then you say, yeah, but at the end of the day, it's still perfect. Oh, and let's not forget the other day, I noticed on a live stream that ESPN was apparently reviewing this game as well. And they said, the best thing Ubisoft could have done for the series. ESPN. Which I don't even want to take the time to cover this. If you want to see that, I got a clip of that live stream that I published as well, which, what the hell is ESPN even doing in this? That's a whole nother story. These reviews are peppered with vague, PR-friendly praise about the massive technical upgrade and well-developed characters. Yet, when you read between the lines, there's clear admissions that the game has significant problems, and some of these outlets are still giving the game a perfect overall score. How is that even possible? But conveniently, those issues always seem to overshadow the apparent fun fact. Does all of this sound too familiar? It's the same kind of excess praise that we got from Concord before that crashed and burned after launch. And like I said earlier, it's the same kind of review padding that we saw from Dragon Age the Veilguard before that flopped as well. And let's not forget, this is the same Ubisoft that is now putting together, allegedly, a team of lawyers and social media personalities behind the scene to review what's being said about Assassin's Creed Shadows to potentially throw lawsuits at people over criticism. And sure, they're going to be calling it harassment or hate speech, but when you start convoluting those two things, it can get pretty scary. And I covered all of that in my previous video where I discussed how Ubisoft had grown increasingly aggressive in controlling its image, cracking down on any form of criticism that doesn't perfectly align with their carefully curated PR narrative that they're trying to push forward with Shadows. It strikes me as some pretty heavy desperation coming out of Ubisoft these days. Not that anyone's really surprised. I mean, let's be honest, if Assassin's Creed Shadows fails, their entire organization with nearly 20,000 employees could crash and burn as well. Despite all the glowing reviews, the wider gaming community isn't convinced at all, especially right now with the history of the previous releases we've seen with the reviews and how we're not going to be believing anything we see with those outlets. The biggest point of contention that I'm seeing is Ubisoft's blatant DEI pushing with Shadows Yasuke protagonist, complete with the bisexual lighting and the ability to make this guy gay in the game. I have a feeling that is going to rub a lot of gamers the wrong way when they get to that portion of the game. I mean, come on. What are we even doing here, Ubisoft? Are we serious with this bisexual lighting and this promotional advertising? The historical revisionism going on right now is turning off a lot of longtime Assassin's Creed fans, and beyond the obvious forced inclusivity, it feels like yet another attempt to appeal to a demographic that simply does not exist or buy games entirely. Remember that oh so non-existent modern audience that they were initially going for and then realized, oh wait, they don't actually buy games if they even exist at all? Looks like Ubisoft has realized who their audience is and who butters their bread. But even with that being the case, Ubisoft just can't seem to do anything right these days. They're desperately clinging to the Assassin's Creed franchise as a lifeline, but Assassin's Creed Shadows is looking like yet another manufactured hit designed to be propped up by mainstream media. Again, no different than Dragon Age the Veilguard and many other games in recent memory that have come before it. Rather than succeeding on its own merits, the way games should and historically always had, I'm going to be playing it for myself to decide, but I'm not going to be holding my breath to be blown away by anything. But who knows? You never know. Time will tell. If Ubisoft releases are any indication previously, the game's headed straight on a collision course with reality. Just like Dragon Age the Veilguard, I expect to see a massive disconnect between critic scores and player sentiment once the real reviews, from the actual gamers, start rolling in. But again, time is going to tell, and I'm extremely curious to see what happens with this one. Anyways, I'm going to leave it there. If you guys want more information, check out smashjt.com for the full article. I will link this in the description below. If you appreciate what I'm doing, hit that join button. Thank you so much for watching, and as always, you stay smashing.
But I also knew that this was a story in Japan, and a lot of times Japanese female are portrayed to be very demure, and demure, and like they need somebody to protect them. And I grew up not really feeling so, I don't know, like represented by those characters. Right?